beautiful sunset on the West Coast as Friday Night Fights heads to Cabazon, California, and the Morongo Casino. Friday Night Fights, as usual, brought to you by Corona Extra. Welcome into our Bristol studio here for Friday Night Fights. My name is Todd Grisham. Coming up on the program, we'll take a look back on the American heavyweight knockout artist Deontay Wilder's latest first-round wipeout from last week. Plus, Teddy Atlas will give us his very strong opinion on Danny Garcia's latest win and his thoughts on open scoring. Get your DVR ready for that. Plus, we're going to have the heartbreaking story of former undefeated heavyweight Magomed Abdusalamov, as his life was changed forever and he was put in a coma after his first professional loss. Could it have been prevented? An in-depth report straight ahead. We'd like you to be a part of the show. Reach out to me on Twitter at Grisham ESPN, as well as longtime Ring Magazine editor Nigel Collins. We'll do our best to tweet back at you. We also encourage you to score tonight's fights from the comfort of wherever you happen to be, assuming you are in comfort. Log on to our Friday Night Fights Facebook page and make sure and use the scoring app. We'll update you throughout the program on your scorecards and compare them to Teddy Atlas's scorecards. Our opening bout, our co-feature, coming up next here on Friday Night Fights. We'll send you out west to California. Stay tuned.
ESPN Friday Night Fights is presented by Corona Extra, who invites you to find your beach. And in part by Aleve, 2 pills all day strong, all day long. And Little Caesars, try our $5 hot and ready lunch combo. And now we take you inside Casino Morongo, where we're still awaiting the ring entry of Marcos Jimenez, who was having trouble with one of his gloves. That'll be taken care of momentarily. But Teddy, that gives us a great opportunity to talk about tonight's main event. Vanes Martirosyan, we know how talented he is. He's got 2 title shots. But his opponent, Mario Lozano, is coming in with upset on his mind.
Yeah, and you know what? It's the perfect time to have upset on your mind, because guess what? It's upset season. It's March Madness, and it's in the middle of it right now with the NCAA basketball tournament. They're dropping like flies. Duke went down today. So, of course, Lozano's people are hoping they can attach themselves a little bit to that. But I think he'll probably be maybe a little bit too slow. Maybe needs a 3-point shot. I don't know that he has that 3-point shot. Maybe a step behind Martirosyan all night long. But what I can tell you about Lozano, he's a solid guy. He's a game guy. I think he will go deep into the fight. I don't know about the Final 4, but deep into the fight, and give this guy at least something to throw punches at all night long.
So it's not a 16-1 seeding here. We got more of a close matchup, and Anthony Peterson's got a tough fight on his hands. The fighters are now in the ring, and that is Anthony Peterson. He's a 2003 National Golden Glove champion at 132 pounds. This is only his second bout in 832 days due to an injury to his shoulder, and he is the brother of IBF junior welterweight titleist Lamont Peterson, who is the reigning champion at 140 pounds and is awaiting an opponent for the month of June. So let's take a look at his opponent, who was having trouble with one of his gloves. His name is El Tigre, Marcos Jimenez. He was born in the Dominican Republic, had his first 19 pro bouts in Puerto Rico with 17 of those wins. He's 2-0 after 2 consecutive losses, but he knows that this is a great chance against a name opponent here on Friday Night Fights. Now it's time to see what fighters need to do to look like a champ, and this is brought to you by Just for Men.
Well, let's start with Peterson. I hope Jimenez is warmed up enough. He didn't have those gloves ready, but for Peterson, jab, pressure, and attack the body. That's the ticket. And for Jimenez, well, use your jab and legs on the outside, and on the inside where Peterson has the edge, tie him up.
And we know exactly the story of the Peterson brothers. Anthony Peterson, the younger brother of IBF world titleist Lamont Peterson. They were taken in by Barry Hunter, and boxing was their salvation, and now he wants to follow in his big brother's footsteps.
legal punches. Here on up, touch gloves, luck to both of you. Buena suerte los dos.
Lots of inactivity for both these guys. Starting with Jimenez. 8 months last fight, go back 3 fights, was off 1 year and 5 months. Before that, a gap of 1 year, 1 month. Also, maybe even worse for Peterson, too much inactivity. Can't be at your best when you're out of the ring more than you're in it. 10 months last fight for Peterson, then go back before that, off almost 1.5 years, then 1 year and 3 months, and before that, another year off. So maybe both guys start a little slow. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say.
Anthony Peterson said, there's nothing like being at 100% in our fighter meetings, being able to throw the punches and not feeling any pain. And so far, he's starting off aggressively. That's his calling card, Teddy, going after guys.
Both of the Petersons are aggressive. They're not shy. They're not guys that you have to look for. They like to attack. Pretty standard, though, pretty conventional, and good fundamentally. Barry Hunter does a good job with that. They come in behind the jab for the most part. They try to put punches together, and they go to the body. I'm looking for Peterson here to be going to the body. Jimenez, 3 of his 4 losses by knockout. You have to wonder about his chin. That's the first question I'm sure our great fans are going to ask now that they know that. But to me, is it the chin, or maybe the better question is, how is his tolerance to pressure? In other words, does he get broken down by strong, relentless guys? You know, his KO losses have come middle and late in fights. 2 of them 5th round and 1 in the 12th round. Jimenez has been knocked out. So to me, I don't think it's the chin. I think that he gets deteriorated. And if Peterson brings what I think he should bring, which is steady pressure, well, pressure deteriorates you.
Triple jab by Anthony Peterson, working well from the distance.
Jimenez has been penalized for low blows in his last fight. Matter of fact, he's been involved in some head clashes.
And Jimenez using those elbows to protect from the vicious body shots that Peterson is trying to land.
So when there's dead space like this is where you want to use the jab. Peterson, right on cue, starts using it. This is where you can grab rounds when there's not. I talked about maybe a slow start. This is a slow start right here. Both guys feeling each other out. But again, that dead space can be won by that. Just cutting the air with your jab. Nothing landed there, but who controlled the rhythm? Who controlled the moment? Who controlled space? It's Peterson.
Crucial to get off to a good start. Like you said, it's all about activity in the early going here for Anthony Peterson against Marcos Jimenez, as we invite you to log on to the Friday Night Fights Facebook page and judge each and every one of these rounds. And as the fight progresses, we'll see how you're doing up against Teddy's scorecard.
No contest.
Although they've been right along with you lately, Teddy.
They're great.
All right, what's great is going to break after round 1. And Chris Arreola will headline the return of heavyweight championship boxing on ESPN on May 10th when he takes on Bermain Stavern in a rematch of their 2013 fight. So we will have that for you live here on ESPN in the month of May. He will be joining us here ringside later on tonight, get his thoughts on how he's preparing for this fight. But for now, back in the ring, it's Anthony Peterson in the purple, white, and black taking on El Tigre, Marcos Jimenez, in the black trunks with orange trim.
Peterson has been on the floor in his career. Jimenez, if he doesn't start going a little bit, get his hands moving a little bit, he might have to put Peterson on the floor to win this fight. In other words, he might fall behind and need a 10-8 round to catch up. Get a little busier now, though.
And Teddy, that would mean getting out of his shell and exposing himself a little bit more if he gets himself in a disadvantaged position of points.
Yeah, you don't want to expose yourself, that's for sure.
See those body shots that Peterson is trying to land, and even if they don't land on the body, they're doing damage to the arms.
You believe in those myths, huh? Rocky Marciano fans. Those great Rocky Marciano fans.
It worked for him.
They used to say, oh, he hit you on the arms and break your blood corpuscles. You break your blood vessels. You know, hit you on the shoulders, hit you on the arms. I saw him hit guys on the chin. I think that's what did the damage. I wouldn't mind a guy hitting me on the arms all night. Just stay away from my chin.
Jimenez not giving him too many opportunities at his chin, and he's settling for those arm shots so far, but the plan is there for Anthony Peterson. Shot to the body by Jimenez, part of the 1-2 combination.
A lot of breaks in the action here so far. Both guys taking turns. Peterson started the first round, trying to be the boss. This round, Jimenez waking up a little bit. But it seems like both guys go tit for tat. One guy gets off a little bit, the guy accommodates him. You know, Jimenez gets accommodated by Peterson, he covers up, puts those earmuffs on, allows Jimenez to work a little bit, and then it seems like Jimenez returns the favor, puts the earmuffs on, and allows Peterson to have something to attack.
Peterson taking a couple steps back and then answers with the body shot, trying to close out this round from Casino Morongo. Head movement, good defensive action from Marcos Jimenez, but not too much on the offensive. And when you know the story of Lamont and Anthony Peterson, it's that of struggle, that of being homeless. And Anthony Peterson talked to us about the most important moment of his life, and it had to do with his brother.
December the 10th, 2011. Can't deny it, when Lamont beat Khan. That was the happiest night of my life. Because I remember, he probably don't remember, my memory is the greatest thing that happened to this planet. We walked outside of that building when they was building it. We were homeless. We walked right past that building, not knowing that one day inside that building, that he was gonna be, you know, reigning king, you know, and dethrone the champ in that building. Awesome.
Said he no doubt these two young men were born to be fighters, and the circumstances of their lives have really toughened them up to do what they've been able to do inside the ring.
Mental toughness, probably the most important ingredient in being a world champion, being a top fighter. You know, you get to a certain level, the talent's comparable. Everyone has a certain amount of speed, certain amount of power. You can learn the technique, the footwork, the defense, the covering with your punches, the slipping punches. But the mental toughness, making the right choices under pressure when they're very uncomfortable. Uncomfortable choices. Anyone who has an edge there, well, they have an edge in becoming a world champion.
Raul Caiz, the third man in the ring, warning both fighters for low blows as they both try to attack the body. Anthony Peterson always in pristine shape. Marcos Jimenez moving up from 130 to 135, only weighed 132 pounds, and his mouthpiece comes flying out here in round 3.
Referee's waiting for a break in action. When he sees a break in action, he doesn't want to stop the natural flow. When he sees a break in action, the referee will step in, send the fighters to a neutral corner, and then return the mouthpiece.
That's a sign of a good referee, allowing these fighters to fight through the rhythm. There he sees the break.
Go there.
And it was Peterson's mouthpiece that came flying out.
No, rinse it right, rinse it right.
Peterson behaved like a
Thank you.
professional.
Here we go, time in, let's go.
Fighter.
Box.
Lost mouthpiece, didn't let anyone know. We didn't even know. Kept going, kept doing his business.
Yeah, sometimes you'll see him point at their mouth open and smile a little bit so the ref will see it. He just kept doing what he does.
Right now, what he's doing or what he's not doing is he's not jabbing enough.
One side head.
Neither fighter using their jab quite enough. And because of that lack of jab on the outside, nobody controlling that outside range. Both guys are taking turns of doing that, working on the inside.
Yeah, I think they're both content making this fight at that distance when I think especially Peterson with that solid jab is letting that advantage go.
Both guys, as I said earlier, they mirror each other. They put those earmuffs on, and look, they just give each other a chance to work when the other guy is neutralized, when the other guy is defensive. I think in that position, when they're both covered up in that peekaboo, they both have opportunities to land the uppercut. Split the guard right up the middle. If I'm in the corner, I'm telling both these guys, you get inside, use that punch.
There's a body work from Anthony Peterson.
Again, inside is being contested here. Both guys giving each other a chance to go inside. A little bit low there.
Stay right there in that corner.
He had been warned just moments ago. You do this one more time, I'm going to deduct the point.
Quédate aquí.
See, there's a reason why I say certain things, but it seems like I'm just saying them. First round, I said Jimenez has been penalized for low blows in his last fight.
Time in.
And there
Touch
it
glove.
is.
Ven.
And now he's been warned.
10 seconds. 10 segundos. Limpio, eh? Here we go. Box. 10 seconds. Para la campana.
Round 3 of a 10-round bout here between Jimenez and Anthony Peterson on Friday Night Fight. Comes to an end.
Second time, Marquis in. Let's go.
10 seconds for round 4 to begin between Anthony Peterson and Marcos El Tigre Jimenez. And so far, it's a battle of infighters. Either one working the jab, and they start off with it here in round 4. Bernardo Osuna alongside Teddy Atlas. See that left hook now being unleashed by Peterson. But much like, ooh, nice uppercut there by Jimenez.
Well, what did I say last round? The uppercut is there, Bernardo, for both guys. And of course, the body attack is there for both guys because they mirror each other, as I said earlier. They both go into that peekaboo, put those earmuffs on, and give each other an opportunity to go hit the heavy bag.
The uppercut lands again for Marcos Jimenez. With all the skills that Anthony Peterson has, why the love for this style, Teddy?
For me, in this fight, if one guy would use the jab when they are separated, that guy's going to really start to pull ahead. It's staying close because both guys doing the same thing on the inside, looking to be the boss in the trenches. But again, if one guy would take it outside, or when he is outside, would use the jab, well, that guy's going to separate.
Watch your hands, both of you.
Take a look at the unofficial scorecards here. Teddy, even though there's no physical separation, boxing-wise, you have it 30-27, so there's that separation in your scorecard. The viewers on Facebook have the exact same outlook on Peterson's dominance, despite the fact that he's not really fighting from the outside and taking advantage of the distance. He's doing it the hard way.
Well, he's getting to the point. He's not dominating yet, but he's getting to the point where if it continues this way, he will be dominating soon. He just looks like the bigger, stronger guy. His punches are heavier than Jimenez, and there's a reason for it. Peterson is the bigger guy, solid lightweight his entire career, while Jimenez has been between junior lightweight and featherweight his entire career. Size and pressure will be a big factor in this fight. And as I said earlier, Bernardo, maybe wear down Jimenez. And I think that's exactly what Peterson had in his mind, and Barry Hunter, his chief second, had in his mind for the game plan.
So far, so good, as you see Peterson walking down Jimenez, who has his back against the ropes and takes a barrage of 6-7 punches. Adding to that tally is Anthony Peterson here in round 4. Nice uppercut, clips him perfectly.
10 seconds, stop at the bell, para la campana.
Anthony Peterson probably putting another round in his pocket as round 4 comes to an end here on Friday Night Fights. And when you hear the name Peterson, Anthony Peterson, there's also another one associated to that, and it's Lamont Peterson. Lamont, welcome to Friday Night Fights. We've had you in the ring, now we have you here alongside Teddy. What's your assessment of your brother's performance so far?
So far, so good. He's following the game plan. He came out boxing, but now the guy kind of challenged them as far as physical-wise, and I think Burry wanted to send a message to the other guy that you're not stronger than we are. So I'm pretty sure eventually Ann will go back to boxing and win the fight.
I think the reason why your brother started out boxing is inactivity. Hasn't been in that ring a long time.
Yeah.
Started taking a look at him for a while.
Yep, you got to figure things out in there. You have to get comfortable in the ring again. It's been about, what, 10, 11 months, and I think he's comfortable now that he's going to work.
Why don't you tell your brother to use the jab more?
When I was over in the corner, that's what I was trying to get the message to him.
You know, the message he gave us was that the proudest moment of his life was watching you win the world title in that building where you used to walk by when you guys didn't have a place to stay. Talk to us about what that means, the relationship you guys built through all those tough times.
It's a real strong bond. I know that much, and it's been that way since I remember. Even before we didn't have anywhere to live and things like that. We just always had a close bond. I guess because we only 13 months apart, and but just as far as things like that, from back in the day, he will always come and say things that I can't remember. So it's good to have him around to refresh my memory about a lot of things like that.
Forget about the boxing side of it for a second. Who's the better looking brother?
We leave that to the ladies to decide.
Smart man. So what's next for you?
Hopefully something in June. We haven't really talked about a lot of things. I'm just trying to stay in a little bit shape just in case something pop up, and I'll be ready for it. But hopefully June.
Still the reigning IBF 140-pound champion sitting in here with Teddy Atlas and Bernardo Osuna. We're talking about Lamont Peterson, who's watching his brother in the ring. Harder to box or harder to watch your brother?
Harder to watch. I'm a little nervous right now, and especially before it started. With me, when I'm getting in there, I know that everything's going to be okay because I know I feel 100%. But with him, I don't know how he's feeling, so it kind of gets to me a little bit. But I'm getting a little bit comfortable now because he's putting rounds in the bag.
Yeah, of course. You can control yourself. You can't control him.
Nope.
And that lack of control, it can get you nervous.
Yep.
But right now, when you go back there later on, tell him use the jab and use the uppercut on the inside a little bit.
Yeah, I would like to see the uppercut too because he's going to the body.
Yeah, it looks like that body attack is getting Jimenez to lean a little.
Right. Yep. His head is definitely over his heels, and he need to use it more often.
You're at 135. You got a talented boxer in Miguel Títere Vázquez. You got an awkward fighter in Richard Abril, then Terrence Crawford, who just dethroned Ricky Burns. How do you see your brother at lightweight?
Actually, all the names that you just mentioned are tall fighters, and my brother normally do good with taller fighters. So I like his chances against any of those guys.
It's a mega statement tonight here on Friday Night Fights, and he told us this was a statement fight for him. He wanted to prove that he deserves a shot and that at 100% physically, he's at that elite level.
Yeah, he definitely had, the chance to show here. He had the spotlight, and so far so good. He's taking care of business.
We're getting halfway through this fight here as round 5 comes to an end. We want to thank Lamont Peterson for joining us here. You've seen you in the ring. We look forward to seeing you back in the ring. We'll come right back with more Friday Night Fights. Raul Caiz Jr. went over to the red corner to once again warn Marcos Jimenez to keep his punches up. And now, what does that do to a fighter, Teddy, when you've already been warned and then the ref comes out and says, watch those punches?
Well, maybe you don't want to keep them up. Well, you know what? It's true.
Like Tito Trinidad against
Let me tell you something, Bernardo. We talked about the mental part. I talk about the mental part, the dimension of that all the time in this business. And funny things happen under pressure when somebody's trying to attack you, somebody's trying to hurt you. You find ways to win, but sometimes you find ways to get out, too. That's what separates guys that go on with ability, but they go on to be title guys that get to the top of the ladder, and other guys that don't quite get over the hump. And you look at them and you say, well, they have the ability because they don't handle the mental choices, the mental decisions well. And when you're under pressure, under a body attack, the way Peterson putting on Jimenez, maybe sometimes you're tempted to go a little bit low. to maybe get a little help.
And if we look back at their records, we see that in 2010, it was actually Anthony Peterson who was disqualified for low blows against Brandon Rios.
Yeah, but in that fight, truth be spoken, and we like to speak the truth here, I know I do, he was getting taken apart. He was being dominated in that fight. And as he was being dominated in that fight, well, who knows what was going on in his mind. But that was a fight that the win did not come for Rios because of the disqualification. The win was coming because he was dominating that fight.
It actually dropped him in that fight, the first and only time that he's been dropped, and that's what ended up happening on that occasion in 2010. He said he's learned from that, but that inactivity, he's trying to break away from those uppercuts, aren't finding a home.
I just saw it in this fight that it was the kind of fight that Peterson would wear down Jimenez, and he's starting to do that. And he's been doing that really the last 4 rounds. And I said it early, you know, you look at knocked out 3 times, you say no chin. His chin's okay, but it's the tolerance for pressure. It's the ability to be able to absorb pressure from a steady, strong guy. That, I think, is what has really gotten to Jimenez and getting to him tonight.
Jimenez lands a 1-2, but doesn't really move Anthony much, although there he clips him with a right.
Peterson's just too big and strong for Jimenez on the inside. And Jimenez has not shown the ability to really control the outside. So in other words, tough night for him.
Round 6 coming to an end here on Friday Night Fights.
Don't let him think he can win. Let's go, seconds up.
You're gonna see the right hand land, but watch the little subtle dip low and then up high. That's what sets it up. A little subtle dip low and then a right hand high. Peterson bent low as though he was gonna go to the body, and then he looped high. I say it all the time on Friday Night Fights. You know, it's not just about the punch. It's about the delivery system to get that punch in. Peterson understands the delivery system, and he doesn't work for FedEx.
This is our co-main event between Peterson and Jimenez, and later on, our main event features the return to the ring of Vanez Martirosyan with a new corner. He's got Joe Goosen with the directions in the corner. He hopes that will make a difference in the rebirth of his career. He'll be taking on Mario Lozano, who's a knockout artist from Chihuahua, Mexico.
Who's he been knocking out? Who's he been knocking out?
And not many good names, Teddy. We know that story. We've seen it once or twice.
But he is a tough guy. He's a guy that's fundamentally solid, and he's a guy that'll be in there going rounds, I believe. And he throws a pretty good left hook to the body, something that might not be a bad idea against Martirosyan, whose figures, at least in my estimation, to be a little too quick for him tonight. That body attack, that left hook to the body, if Lozano can do that, maybe makes Martirosyan a couple steps slower. That's what he hopes for. And right now, Jimenez should be hoping for a little separation, use the jab. Now he's hoping to turn southpaw. That means, to me, that means he's desperate. He's turning southpaw right now. It means that he's trying to pull rabbit out of the hat. A lot of times guys turn southpaw and say, no, it's because they're in control. You know, they're feeling good. They're adding to their lead, to their advantage. But in this case, desperation for Jimenez.
Watch your heads, guys.
His losses were to Diego Magdaleno, Carlos Molina, and Edel Ruiz.
I talked about in the setup of this fight, where we're going over the fight plan for both guys, talked about Jimenez needs to use the jab on the outside and then tie up on the inside. He tied up a minute ago on the inside, but not controlling on the outside the way that I thought he needed to.
He flashed a little bit of speed there, and then he uses his shoulder to get him off of him. And Raul Caiz, just as he's been warning Jimenez about the low blows, is quick to warn Anthony Peterson about the roughhousing, as we invite you to vote on Facebook and compare your scorecard to Teddy's unofficial scorecard here after round 7.
I thought if Peterson kept the pedal to the metal, he might get a stoppage here. Looks like he decided to do a little country driving, little sightseeing. Take the car around a little bit, not stay on the highway.
After all the injury, maybe looking to get some rounds here as we come to an end of round 7.
Here we go. Time in. Box.
That helps if you have your mouthpiece. Makes your dentist happy.
Friday Night Fights coming to you live from Morongo Casino in Cabazon, California. Teddy Atlas and Bernardo Osuna calling the action, as Anthony Peterson has been pretty dominant in terms of scoring in this fight over Marcos Jimenez, and as you mentioned, Teddy taking the foot off the gas in that end of the last round.
Yes, he did. Ooh, there's that uppercut I've been calling for. That was a nice counter uppercut. He rotated his shoulders a little bit back. Peterson did. Made room for this. Created an alleyway for that counter right uppercut. Did a little bit like Floyd Mayweather, but instead of the straight right hand, rotated the right shoulder and came back with the right uppercut.
Jimenez felt that punch, and the follow-up right cross that landed as well. And now Peterson content to tie him up and work inside once again.
There should be no tying up by Peterson on the inside. There should be working by him. He's the bigger, stronger guy. He's been the boss all night. And he's shown that he can affect Jimenez. Jimenez is the guy that shouldn't hang out on the inside too long. But you know what? He's got no choice now because he didn't listen to my game plan. Fight on the outside early on. Now he's behind the 8-ball. So he's got to fight anywhere he can. Can't be choosy now.
We need to show him the look like a champ graphic in the locker room so he could see it, Teddy, and then follow the blueprint. But then that wouldn't be fair to the opponent, now would it?
Those things have to be in place in the gym. Too late to put them in place in the locker room. You put them in place in the locker room, you didn't do your job.
Although nobody could do without, or all these fighters could do with a little bit of Teddy tips, because those are always good. When we look at the last 5 rounds, Peterson has landed 139 punches to 72 by Jimenez, almost doubling his punch output.
A lot of people say, Teddy, what can Jimenez do on the inside besides tie up? Well, he could use his feet and move around Peterson. Keep Peterson a little off balance. Punch and move around him. But don't stand right in front of him.
Stop. No punch. Box.
Jimenez trying to land, but even when he does, it doesn't, or he hasn't moved Peterson throughout the fight.
Talk about moving. I think if Peterson moved back a little bit, he's got Jimenez leaning a little bit. He could let him lean right into a shot. And again, probably right into that uppercut.
Stop. Box. Stop for the bell.
As round 8 comes to an end, Teddy, we're going to take a look at that quick uppercut that was so good and worked so well for Anthony Peterson. We'll be back here.
Stay in the corner. But the corner.
Take a look at that uppercut. There's the rotating of the shoulder roll, and then the uppercut. What I was talking about, you know, we've seen it. We put it together so much with Mayweather, where he rotates that right shoulder back and then comes back with the counter. Creates space for a miss,
No punch.
and then, of course, an alleyway for a hit.
It was all those elements that you had mentioned about creating his own space, taking maybe a little bit step back, allowing Jimenez to set himself up for that punch, and that's exactly what happened in that sequence. Nice jab, and when he works the jab, it's a whole different fight for Peterson.
And Peterson, to be quite honest with you, you're right. I mean, the jab only makes things better, Bernardo, but Peterson, jab or no jab, he's dominating this fight simply because he's being allowed to get inside. Jimenez, really, when it comes to the jab, as far as the importance here, it's more missing by Jimenez because that's allowing Peterson to get in. No jab from Jimenez allows the stronger Peterson to get close. And he's been able to win, at least on my scorecard, all the rounds simply by being allowed to get close.
Mouthpiece once again an issue with Anthony Peterson. Has it replaced, and Jimenez welcomes him with a right hook. But as has been the story throughout this fight, not doing much damage to the bigger Anthony Peterson.
Yeah, the lack of a jab really has hurt Jimenez much more than it's hurt Peterson for 2 reasons. Well, one, it hasn't kept Peterson at bay. Hasn't kept Peterson on the outside, hasn't kept Peterson busy. And the second reason is, well, it's just like opening the door and allowing people to come right in your house. It's allowed
Here we go. Box.
Peterson just to walk in that front door.
And now there's another warning from Raul Caiz Jr. for Anthony Peterson. So both have been warned. Jimenez for low blows. Anthony Peterson for using his shoulder.
Remember, Jimenez, I talked about it earlier too, been involved in head clashes, and you could see the last minute on the inside, he was moving that head around a little bit.
Stop. Step back. Box.
Look, you never want to see a cut, but if you're in the Peterson camp, last thing you want to see is red on your guy. I mean, so far, it looks like you might have a whitewash of a fight. You're getting rounds, you're having it all your way so far. You want to be ready to go again when the calendar says, let's go again. You don't want to be held up, waiting for a cut to heal.
And that's what Anthony Peterson was talking about in this fight, that he wanted to come out clean and get back to activity, because it's been 10 months since his last fight. It was 17 months before that fight. So it's very important for him to get that rhythm, get that action inside the ring as round 9 comes to an end. The closing round when we return here on Friday Night Fights. Jimenez getting his last instructions and a slap in the face, some motivation, and the calm demeanor on Anthony Peterson evident across the ring.
Only in the sport of boxing would slapping someone in the face be called motivation.
Stop. No, wrestling.
Somewhere else might be called assault or abuse or something like that. Peterson coming up in the next fight in the main event. You know, most of our fans know he's of Armenian descent, and the Armenian national basketball team is here tonight to support Peterson. Not too often you get a national basketball team coming out to support a fighter. The Armenian community, as all countries, very proud of their sports representatives, and they show it with their support. Did you know who their greatest boxer of all time is, Bernardo?
I do not. Who is it?
I'm glad you don't know. This way I can tell you. The greatest Armenian boxer of all time was Vladimir Yangobairian, who won a gold medal in the 1956 Olympics. And unfortunately, he passed away a year ago, and he's a national hero, an icon in Armenia.
You know, that was my second guess.
And you know what? He helped train Vanes when Vanes first started out in boxing.
You know, and it's a big deal for Vanes to come in here and make a big statement. He understands what's at stake for himself and for his community if they were to get a world champion. And he still has that in his mind, as we're in round 10 of Peterson Jimenez here, our co-main event. And not much has changed, Teddy. These two fighters continue to fight at that close distance, and Jimenez unable to do much damage against Peterson, who works with the uppercuts and quick hooks.
But you're so right, Bernardo. Not much has changed, and nobody has decided to use the jab tonight. Peterson, because quite frankly, he hasn't had to. And Jimenez, he just never did.
You know, when we were speaking to Anthony Peterson, he felt that he was the best lightweight around, above Miguel Vasquez, Terrence Crawford, Ricky Burns, and Mark Figueroa. How do you see his level against one of those elite fighters at 135?
It's the guys that can handle his pressure and be stronger than him. You know, he does have the ability to box, but for the most part, he's a pressure guy. He can box, use his legs on the outside a little bit, a little dimension to him. But for the most part, he likes to bring it. He likes to be the stronger guy. And when you want to be the stronger guy, you got to be the stronger guy. And with Rios, he wasn't the stronger guy. So it's all about the matchup, who they can match him up with that doesn't exploit maybe a little shortcoming, but the guy's stronger than him, and he's trying to do that. But right now, nice finish, trying to really pull the curtain down here is Peterson.
The crowd finally has something to cheer about as the final bell tolls on this co-main event feature between Anthony Peterson and Marcos Jimenez. It should be an easy victory for Peterson, but the judges always have the last say. We'll be back with their decision. We invite you to join us next week on Friday Night Fights. We will be on ESPN, not ESPN2, from the Four Bears Casino in Newtown, North Dakota, with the Boxino Lightweight Tournament semifinals as Chris Rudd from Tennessee takes on the Spanish-Russian Peter Petrov, and Fernando Carcamo from Mexico takes on Cleveland's own Miguel Gonzalez. A lot of action in the lightweight tourney semifinals, and Anthony Peterson put the action in the ring tonight on Friday Night Fights. And your thoughts on how he looked, Teddy?
He looked the way he was allowed to look, where he could be the boss. Went to the body, and then every once in a while he mixed in an uppercut, because he had a guy in front of him who was putting those earmuffs on all night and allowing this kind of work to take place by Peterson.
These two gentlemen are awaiting the judge's decision, but let's take a look at Teddy's scorecard, and it was no secret. 10 rounds to none. 100 to 90 is the unofficial scorecard from Teddy Atlas, and you, the Facebook viewers, have it 10-0 as well. The closest round, 73 to 27, 74-26. Other than that, a complete whitewash in favor of Anthony Peterson over Marcos Jimenez. We take it into the ring with Barry Egett with the decision.
Cabazon, how about a big round of applause for these two valiant warriors? To the scorecards we go. Judge Raul Cai Sr. scores the bout 98-92. Thomas Taylor scores the bout 100 to 90, and Fritz Werner scores the bout 99 to 91 for the winner. By unanimous decision, out of Washington, D.C., Anthony Christopher Peterson.
Anthony Peterson gets his 33rd victory. His brother looks on, the champion Lamont Peterson. And coming up next, it will be our main event. Vanes Martirosyan taking on Mario Lozano from Cabazon, California. But for now, we send you back to the studio with Todd Grisham.
Thank you, Bernardo. We'll get you back out to California in just a minute. Now, if you don't know the story of Magomed Abdusalamov, it's important that you do. He was a promising heavyweight contender from Russia and undefeated until late last year, never needing to go past 5 rounds. Then on November 2nd, he endured a brutal bout against another rising talent that left him battered, bloodied, and hours later in a hospital clinging to life. Did the system fail him when he turned out that he needed emergency medical treatment? His family says yes.
Straight left hand, and now Mago is teeing off. Oh, right at the bell, and a huge, huge shot.
18 fights, 18 knockouts, 11 in the first round.
Still undefeated, Magomed Abdusalamov.
He wanted to be world champion. It meant everything to him, and he was doing everything in his power to become just that.
Magomed Abdusalamov's quest to be world heavyweight champion landed him a November 2nd Madison Square Garden matchup with undefeated Mike Perez.
I promise good fight Saturday night. Thank you.
A devout Muslim, the 32-year-old Abdusalamov is the father of 3 young daughters with his wife, Bakanai.
He spends a lot of time with his little girls. He loves them dearly.
He's also a hero in his homeland, the Russian Republic of Dagestan.
He had big plans for when we returned home after his fighting. According to Islam, you should help others, believe in the Almighty, and be a good person. And he tried his best to be all those things.
Abdusalamov entered the ring knowing that if he could beat the Cuban-born Perez, a title shot could be just one bout away. But in the first round, an ominous sign. A forearm that might have been the shot that broke a bone in his face. The illegal blow could have ended the fight, with the referee ruling it a no contest. But that didn't happen.
He came back to the corner and he thought his nose was broken because he kept saying, "my nose." And I told him, "relax, nothing, because I couldn't tell that moment it was broken or not.
Abdusalamov also broke his left hand. Outside the line spoke with his 4 cornermen, his opponent Mike Perez, and a state athletic commission inspector.
They went to war for 10 rounds and never stopped throwing punches.
I spent the entire night throwing the same punch, and he never did something to stop it. So he received hits where the damage was already done.
What nobody knew, as Abdusalamov withstood 312 blows, many to the left side of his head, is that he sustained a devastating head injury. At some point, Abdusalamov's brain started bleeding. Left untreated, it would have killed him.
Although it can't be seen clearly, because he is a strong fighter and I respect him, he was receiving lots of painful hits and complaining. I kept on thinking they would stop the fight.
Abdusalamov's corner, referee Benji Estevez Jr., and the State Athletic Commission doctors on duty that night could have stopped the fight, but no one did.
Was there ever any discussion in the corner about should this fight be stopped?
Around the 7th round, I said, you know what, I may stop this fight. I may stop it. But the very next round, he came back and fight even harder.
Magomed was taking a lot of punches. He was also giving a lot of punches. He was not showing any signs of not being able to defend himself.
Abdusalamov went the distance, losing a unanimous 10-round decision. His handlers and others who saw him say he was coherent as State Commission doctors examined his badly swollen face and a cut over his left eye. Later, in the dressing room, the doctors gave him a neurological exam, requiring him to read a series of numbers.
I said, blanket test, take him to the hospital. And this kid tells him his head hurts. He wants this kid to go through the standard procedure of counting these numbers to see how he feels.
He knew that something was wrong with his head. He said, "Is there a painkiller I could take to lessen the pain?"
And I got kind of mad, and I walked out for about 2 minutes. And I told Chico, I can't take it, man, because they're just BSing with this kid.
After the first doctor was done, the second one came in, and he put in 8 or 9 stitches over his eye.
He says, when you're going back home? And we said, tomorrow. He said, when you get back home, get it checked out. I think his nose is broken.
The doctor said, check him in a day or 2.
In a day or 2?
Yeah.
So at any time did a doctor post-fight suggest that you should go to the hospital that night?
No. No.
We did not know that there was any kind of head injury at that point. He was showing no signs of any trouble.
Was there a sense of urgency?
At that point, no. At that point, no.
After clearing Abdusalamov, doctors left the dressing room. That's when State Inspector Matt Ferrego says he collected a urine sample and found blood, a possible sign of internal bleeding. Ferrego says he then told Abdusalamov's handlers to get him to the hospital that night. But the doctors didn't put him in an ambulance, even though at least one was on standby. With fans streaming onto the sidewalks of bustling Midtown Manhattan, Abdusalamov and his camp were left to find a taxi to an emergency room.
I couldn't find any taxis. Everywhere was full. I kept flagging them down. It took, I don't know how long, good 15, 20 minutes for me to even catch a taxi.
Critical minutes were slipping by for Abdusalamov, who, according to his handlers, was faint, unable to walk on his own, and throwing up before finally reaching the hospital.
This right here is a very large blood clot on the surface of his brain. It's a surgical emergency.
Dr. Rapendra Swarup is the director of the neurosurgical ICU at Mount Sinai Roosevelt Hospital, where the challenge for doctors was to limit the damage to Abdusalamov's brain.
Had he not been operated on, would he have been brain dead?
Of course, absolutely. We managed to salvage, I think, a significant amount, but there's also significant damage. There's significant damage.
2 hours after the final bell of the fight, Abdusalamov had a brain scan, then was rushed into surgery. A large blood clot was pushing his brain against his skull and caused multiple strokes. Doctors removed the left side of his skull to relieve the pressure, and they reduced the swelling of his brain. But Abdusalamov was left in a coma.
5 in the morning, I get a call from his promoter. He says, Mago's in the hospital. All right, I presume. I say, yeah, so he's okay. He says, no, he's in a coma. And I got weak. And
I start crying. I'm thinking about his kids. And I feel bad for his family, man, because here's the guy who's a loving wife and kids at home, beautiful family. I just want to pray that he makes it so he can play with his kids and walk and talk with them and just have a life where they can be together.
Dr. Barry Jordan, the longtime chief medical officer of the State Athletic Commission, was at the fight that night, in charge of the doctors assigned to it. Neither Jordan nor the other doctors would comment to Outside the Lines, but their handling of Abdusalamov is just one of the things now being investigated by the state.
You have at least 4 doctors and a referee there. Their sole purpose in being there is to guard this guy's safety.
Paul Edelstein is an attorney who's been hired by Abdusalamov's family.
They're essentially lifeguards watching a pool with only 2 swimmers in it. And they're only supposed to be watching these 2 swimmers and ensuring that these guys are safe. How did one of them drown?
How will you look back on this fight?
It was a great fight. Fighters have been lost in the past. Athletes have been lost in the past. To single this out as a negligence problem, I don't think is correct. It happened. It has happened in boxing. It will happen in boxing and other sports. It's part of the risk.
Under the circumstances, should there have been more urgency in getting him to the hospital?
I would say yes. If there's any question that there's an intracranial injury from any trauma, the patient needs to go to the hospital, they need to go to the emergency room ASAP.
Abdusalamov was in a coma for weeks before being moved to this rehab facility on Christmas Eve. He's shown slight movement and can follow simple commands, but he remains bedridden and may never be able to walk, talk, or hold his daughters again.
If they had stopped the fight, or at the very least taken him to the hospital right away, maybe his injuries wouldn't be so severe. It's still surreal to us. He's such a strong, joyful person in life. But now, he's just lying there, helpless.
State Athletic Commission Inspector Matt Farigo is spearheading a fundraising effort to help the Abdusalamov family through the Ring 10 Charitable Fund. As of February, he said that about $175,000 had been raised. Now it's time to get set for our